Hey everybody, welcome to Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. I am Alanna Rizzo. Ken must be having some difficulty with his technology. Ironically, we were just talking about technological issues. A big show coming up for you today on this half an hour as we get ready to welcome Ken back in as soon as he has that all figured out. Let's start with the Metropolitans. Right now, the New York Mets are the hottest team in baseball. In fact, a 7-0 sweep at home, including a sweep of the Philadelphia Phillies, a team that many thought would actually contend in the terms of the NL East title. And let's not forget that the Mets are doing all of this without the services of their ace to start the season in Justin Steele, who is on the IL, obviously, after having surgery on his arm, having to have the season sitting out. But it's not just the fact that they're doing it with starting pitching. They're also doing it, of course, because of Pete Alonso, who was the talk of the offseason. Was going to stay as a New York Met, Ken Rosenthal, welcome in, or was he going to go? He is a Met, and he has, again, provided dividends for the Metropolitans. Welcome back. What do you make of the Mets and this great start?
First of all, Alanna, thank you, and sorry for the technical difficulties to start the show. I don't know why I got zapped out of hyperspace, but I did. Now, the Mets are absolutely the most intriguing team going right now, and they're intriguing because not just Alonso, and that's one thing, but the starting pitching is the other. And let's start with Alonso because what he is doing at the plate is remarkable. If he had done this last year, his free agency would have gone a lot differently. But I want to show you just what the difference is as far as his plate discipline, because this is the most striking element of his strong start. His chase rate, you can see at the right column, it's way down. Walk percentage is up, on base, way up. That is what is keying this whole thing for Pete Alonso. And for the Mets, when you have this lineup that they do, Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, others as well, Francisco Alvarez coming back today, as well as Jeff McNeil, you've got something pretty special brewing there. And offensively, they've been really good. Now, the starting pitching is the other surprise. This is perhaps the bigger surprise. Because if you ask people like myself, the supposed experts going into the season, what was the Mets' biggest question? It was starting pitching. No doubt about that. And Clay Holmes, converting from the bullpen to the starting rotation, has done terrific for the Mets. And even with Minaya and Montas out, they've got a find in Griffin Canning. And let's look at their rotation ERA compared to the rest of the league, because Alanna, this is going to blow you away. The Mets' rotation ERA is leading the league by, what is that? 0.76 per 9 innings. That's a huge gap right now between the Mets, the Tigers, the Rangers, the Reds, and the Royals. Those are the top 5. And that just shows you how well they're pitching. Overall, they lead the majors in ERA as well. And it's just been, for the Mets, a charmed, magical start. But I don't know that it's necessarily something that is outside of where they are capable of being. They are really good, and we're seeing that.
Yeah, they are really good. And obviously, I meant that Justin Steele was a member of the Chicago Cubs. We're going to talk about the Cubs and the Dodgers coming up. But back to the Mets and the Phillies for just a second. So my apology there for that. Obviously, I know Justin Steele is not on the Mets. But when you look at the Phillies, Ken, specifically the bullpen, there are some Philly fanatics, if you will, that are a little bit upset about the construction of the bullpen. So what are you seeing, or what are you not seeing from the bullpen arms of Philadelphia? And are they really missing the services of Jeff Hoffman, who was an all-star, last year?
They clearly are missing Hoffman. There's no doubt about that. And yes, their bullpen has been a little bit out of sorts in the early part of the season. And I'll show you the Hoffman versus Jordan Romano comparison, because that's the switch that was made. The Toronto Blue Jays signed Hoffman. The Phillies signed Jordan Romano. Obviously, Romano was a 1-year deal. Hoffman was a multi-year deal. But the comparison between the two right now is rather ugly, at least from the Phillies' perspective. There's Hoffman, 12 1/3 innings, 18 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1.46 ERA, 5 for 5 in save opportunities. And there's Jordan Romano, who has struggled. There's no question about that. 9 1/3 innings, 9 strikeouts, 6 walks, 13.5 ERA. He's not really closing, but he's 1 for 3 in save opportunities. So the Phillies still have some formidable arms in that bullpen. They've got Alvarado, they've got Kerkering, they've got guys, Strahm being another, who can do the job. But for whatever reason, they just haven't started that well this year. And clearly the Mets right now, as Bryce Harper said after yesterday's game, are the better team. But I will say, and we'll say this over and over again until it's time not to say it anymore, it's still pretty early. So I don't know that I'd be that worried about the Phillies, but yeah, there have been some things that have come up, runners in scoring position being another, that have been weaknesses so far.
All right, much more to come here on Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. We're going to talk about the Cubs and the Dodgers in that short series. The Cubs look pretty dominant. We're going to get more into that. But first, we're going to hear from our friends over on Foul Territory with Spot and Tango.
Alanna, we love our pups dearly, and we want to shout out Spot and Tango for taking care of our pups with their unkibble. They are a game changer.
A game changer is right, Scott. And you know anything about me, you know that I love dogs and I want them to live forever. My own rescue pup, Bentley, is my passion, and she loves Spot and Tango, thank goodness. It's 100% human grade ingredients, so you know exactly what your dog is getting. Oftentimes in other forms of dog food, you have no idea what's in it. It's a bunch of fillers. She loves it. It helps keep her healthy. It's perfectly customized for her age, her breed, her weight, and her level of activity. Makes me happy to give it to her.
Hey, and you can upgrade your pet's bowl with Spot and Tango Unkibble. For a limited time, go to spotandtango.com/foul. Use code FOUL to get 50% off your first order. That is spotandtango.com/foul. Code FOUL to get 50% off your first order. One more time for the pups out there. Code FOUL at spotandtango.com/foul.
Big believer in Spot and Tango, big believer in making sure Bentley gets that. So thanks for being a part of Fair Territory and all of our platforms on Foul Territory. Let's go back to the Cubs for a second, Ken, because this, again, albeit a short series, but the fact is they dominated the Dodgers by 1 run in each game. There was some offense, but the Cubs bested the World Series champions. Are they the best team in baseball right now?
I wouldn't go that far, but they're really good. And their offense certainly is the best in the majors right now. And that is the biggest surprise with the Cubs so far. They're on pace to score more than 1,000 runs. Now, 30 homers, 60 stolen base, 100 RBI guy, probably not. But what they've done so far has been surprising, and it's been all the more intriguing because they've done this against a very tough schedule, a schedule that club officials feared might bury them early. But now they're done with the Dodgers, done with the Diamondbacks, done with the Padres, and their offense has just been absolutely outstanding. And you look at the guys at the top of the lineup. It's Happ and Suzuki, and it's Bush, and of course it's Kyle Tucker. And that is what has keyed their resurgence offensively. Ultimately, the bottom of the order will determine whether this is a really good offense or not. But let me show you, Alanna, just where they stand in the majors in runs per game. Because like the Mets with the rotation, this is a big gap. The Cubs right now averaging 6.27 runs per game. That's almost a run per game more than the next team. That's the Yankees at 5.48. You see the Diamondbacks are right there, the Reds and the Brewers as well. Interestingly enough, we've got the Reds on the good rotation list and the good scoring list, and they're only about a 500 team so far. So maybe that will change because those are good signs. But the Cubs, man, they are bringing Wrigley Field back to where it should be. That electric atmosphere that we saw when they were really good in the mid-2010s. And even with the Dodger fans marching through Wrigleyville yesterday and kind of taking over things, the Cubs had a pretty good couple of days.
Yeah, the Cubs get the win. They get the sweep. So you can have all the Pantone 294 fans in the stands if you want to, but the Cubs ultimately with the victory. Let's talk about the schedule though, Ken, because you mentioned it. April opponents for the Cubbies, the Athletics, San Diego, Texas, the Dodgers, the Padres, Arizona, the Dodgers again. The Dodgers and the Cubs are done playing each other finally. The Pirates and the Phillies. Now in May, it gets supposedly a little bit easier, right? They have the Marlins, the Giants, who are a good team, the Mets, Miami, the White Sox, Miami again, Cincinnati, Colorado, Cincinnati. And they are done with LA, San Diego, and Arizona. So one would think that they got through the toughest part of their schedule and maybe they can even, pad that lead a little bit. So the schedule, Ken, is in the Cubs' favor.
It is, but Alanna, you know this from years of covering the game too. That can be a trap. And you can't ease up when you're playing lesser teams. It's still Major League Baseball, and on any given night, any team can beat any other. And as someone pointed out to me yesterday with the Cubs, he said, hey, the days when the Pirates are pitching Paul Skeens and the days when the Marlins are pitching Max Meyer, we can bring him into the conversation as well. Those days, those teams are like playoff teams. So it's not as easy as you think, but certainly just getting through what they've gotten through with the Dodgers, the Padres, and Diamondbacks, being done with those teams, that you would think is a huge advantage because those three teams are candidates to be the best team in baseball too. So you're looking at that and just seeing what should be for the Cubs a little bit of an easier road. Now, whether they take advantage of it, whether they continue playing as well, that all remains to be seen.
Yeah, Sahadav Sharma with this tweet: after being an afterthought for too long, the Cubs are once again a must-see attraction. To your point, Ken Rosenthal, they have Wrigley rocking on an entertaining group that's off to a hot start. So it's fun. I think, baseball's better when the Cubs are good. It's just, it's one of those teams, one of those franchises that you like to see have success. Let's speak about the Arizona Diamondbacks for just a second and the bullpen reshuffle. Torey Lovullo, who is one of my favorite guys in the game. I know people love playing for him because of his communication skills, and he had a bit of a self-critique about burning one of his relievers. What do you make of this?
Well, it was interesting. What he said was that with AJ Puk going down now, that maybe he used him too heavily. And what he referred to was not just putting him in games, but warming him up and not putting him in games, burning him, so to speak. And that can happen with managers and relievers. Sometimes the score will shift. For instance, you're using a leverage guy or planning to use a leverage guy, and all of a sudden you go from 3-1 to up 6-1, you don't want to use them. But that can take a toll. And the one point I want to make here, besides praising Lovullo for his honesty, because most managers do not admit when they might have made a mistake, but beyond that, it's very difficult for those of us on the outside, including media, but of course fans as well, to judge a bullpen usage when we don't always have all of the information. Now, you might say, Ken, it's the reporter's job to get the information. Well, sometimes they don't volunteer the information and they don't answer the questions when asked because sometimes a reliever might be feeling less than 100% and might ask for a few days off. Sometimes you'll have situations like this where a manager has gotten a guy up a few times in recent days and he's not ready. And again, we don't necessarily have all of this access to this information. So there are things that happen with bullpen usage that sometimes look kind of hard to figure out and weird, right? You don't really see why this is going on, but at the same time, there are explanations. And if the teams give an explanation, great. If not, sometimes it's a little hard to judge. So I always caution myself and even fans too, we need to find out more. We need to know more. We don't always know everything. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. We don't always know everything. I know that's hard for people on social media to believe, but it's the truth.
Oh, I mean, if it's on X, then it must be true. And speaking of teams that sometimes keep information close to the vest, that's our first question in Grillin Ken. Let's get to it. All right, here's the opportunity to ask Ken Rosenthal some questions about this great game of ours. The first one is in regards to Blake Snell. And the reason I said that is because the Dodgers sometimes keep things very close to the vest. And Justin wants to know, are we screwed here in LA? Is Blake Snell out for the year? Remember, Ken, the reason Justin is asking this is when they put Blake Snell on the shelf, it was only supposed to be about 2 starts. Well, now they've shut him down. Again, not necessarily disclosing a ton of information. But what do you make of it?
I'm not sure what to make of it, but I do know that teams, the Dodgers included, but not exclusively them, frequently say one thing about injuries and it turns out to be another. Now, sometimes it's not that they're lying. It's just that things don't improve as quickly as they might hope. But I don't know that we can necessarily even think that Blake Snell might be out for the year. Excuse me. But at the same time, it's concerning. It's concerning anytime a player or pitcher says or is told, hey, it's going to be okay in a week or 10 days, and then it's not. And this seems to be where we are with Snell. The most recent IL placement along these lines is Corey Seager with the Texas Rangers. It's mild. Corey's going to be okay. Okay, maybe, but we'll see if he's back in 10 days. And I used to work with someone at the Baltimore Sun. His name was Peter Schmuck. Yes, that was his name. And Peter always would say, always overwrite injuries. And what he meant was don't take the club's word for it. Write it like worst case scenario. Now, you can't really do that, but he was joking. And yeah, oftentimes these things turn out to be worse than the clubs think. Grayson Rodriguez with the Orioles. This guy ever coming back?
Mm-hmm.
He gets hurt and we think, he might be back early, mid-April. No, he's not back yet. So this kind of thing happens all the time. With Snell, though, the only thing, you can only go with the information that you have and you're given, and it doesn't seem to be season threatening or anything like that.
Yeah, Grayson Rodriguez, only one of the question marks when it comes to the Orioles rotation. It seems like that's in flux and quite the mess over there in Baltimore. Another question regarding the Dodgers. Are they being too cautious, Ken? What I mean by that, are they being too cautious in terms of Snell and Ohtani playing the long game, if you will, not rushing them to come back too soon?
No, they're not, in my opinion. And Alanna, I want you to weigh in on this as well, because you follow this team so closely. But everything they are doing, literally everything, is pointing toward October. They want 5 starters, or 3 or 4 starters more likely, to be ready to go in October at full throttle. Kind of the way Yamamoto was last year after he missed so much time. He came back in September, then was really good in October. And with Ohtani, they're slow playing it for that reason. With Snell, it's a little bit different. He is hurt right now. We'll have to see how it goes, but they're going to be extra cautious with not just pitchers, but position players as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. There's no reason to rush Shohei Ohtani back. I know everyone, pets' heads are falling off because the Dodgers just got swept by the Cubs. They're not, 162-0. They're not on that pace. But again, to your point, this club is built for October. I mean, it's an abomination if they don't get into the postseason. They're thinking long term, and they will have their reinforcements coming back, obviously, with Clayton Kershaw coming back. Gonsolin's going to be back soon. So they do have some arms coming back. Another question for you here on Grillin Ken. This is from Foul Territory, our group over there. Is there an AL East rotation that is World Series worthy?
That's a really good question. And actually, there might be one, but it's not from a team that you might expect. Tampa Bay's rotation, once Shane McClanahan comes back, is going to be really good. It's McClanahan, it's Shane Baz, it's Taj Bradley, it's Drew Rasmussen, Zach Littell's their 5th right now. He's more than adequate starter. So that could be one. Now, you're asking about teams that are more likely to be there. The Yankees, theoretically, with Fried, Rodon, and Schmidt, if Luis Gil comes back, okay, maybe. The Red Sox now that Bio is back, with Crochet, Buehler coming on, maybe. But I understand the question. The Orioles, I would certainly say, are not a World Series type rotation. And the Blue Jays, if Scherzer gets healthy, and Bassett and Barrios and Gossman are good, they're okay too. So it's not as if these teams all have terrible rotations. And you know what, too? We've seen this. Teams with dominant rotations don't always necessarily end up as World Series champions. Those aren't necessarily the teams that are going to win. The Dodgers rotation last year, headed by Flaherty with Buehler in it and Yamamoto, it was good. It wasn't amazing. So you can win in a number of ways. And the way teams bullpen now, I would expect that the next World Series champion is not going to be necessarily the team with the best rotation.
All right, so you're saying that the Seattle Mariners will not be the World Series champion because they have the best rotation? I know.
I am not saying that. And the Mariners are playing really well without George Kirby, and their offense has been surprisingly good in the last week or two. So if you have it, great. But I'm saying you don't necessarily need it.
Yeah, Mariners putting one to the Boston Red Sox yesterday. All right, coming back, we are going to talk about the dude and the dork of the week. But first, words again from our Foul Territory friends on Hungry Root.
Kratz, do you like spending an hour on grocery shopping?
Nope. Speed up the process, please.
Introducing Hungry Root to the FT fam.
Now we can all be bougie with our own personal shopper to handle the food shopping, including Rex, based on what you're looking to put in your body.
I stack my Hungry Root box with items like gluten-free, dairy-free blueberry waffles for breakfast, shrimp veggie bowls for lunch, and a little filet mignon with potatoes and broccolini for dinner.
You can also say just, hey, Hungry Root, I eat paleo, or I'm vegetarian, and they load up your cart with personalized recommendations.
And those recs keep evolving as they learn about what you're into. Also, no BS, as in no artificial sweeteners or preservatives in any of Hungry Root's food. You're going to love Hungry Root as much as FT does. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/FT and use code FT. That's hungryroot.com/FT, code FT to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life.
Dude. Dude. Dude.
All right, Ken, time to give somebody a shout out. Who is your dude of the week for this week?
Hunter Brown. And he's a guy that I don't know that many people pegged as a Cy Young contender going into the season. Certainly a promising pitcher with the Houston Astros, someone who has been really good. But right now, fourth in the majors in ERA behind Molly, Yamamoto, and Crochet. He's got a 1.16 ERA, 31 strikeouts, and 6 walks. He has been absolutely dominant. He is my dude of the week, and he's my dude of the week because he's not a guy that we've necessarily talked about, and yet he has thrust himself right into the Cy Young, well, the early Cy Young conversation.
Yeah, that's a good call. For me, it is going to be Blue Jays reliever Paxton Schultz. And this is a guy that basically made his major league debut, Ken, and then just went ahead and set a record. So good for him. I mean, we were watching the Blue Jays broadcast, and Dan Schulman was talking about how the fact that he's, making his major league debut, then he goes out there and makes the record for strikeouts by a reliever to start his debut. So Paxton Schultz, congratulations to you. Way to, get the job done. I mean, he goes out there and just absolutely shoves. Maybe that's because, Ken, and you've covered this game a very long time too. Maybe it's better to, know what you don't know type of situation. I just think that's pretty cool. Like, he goes out there, he's like, oh, I've played this game my whole life. And he absolutely was able to carve down the Mariners lineup.
Absolutely, Alanna. And sometimes it does happen that way. And let's acknowledge too, Nick Kurtz last night, his major league debut for the Athletics. I think the first hit he had was 112 miles an hour off the bat. This guy was a junior at Wake Forest a year ago at this time. Really exciting prospect. And I also consider for dude of the week Soderstrom from the A's as well, because he is the major league home run leader, or right there in the middle of that race. And he said, I'll go to left field. Let's let Nick Kurtz play first base. You don't see that kind of thing often from major leaguers. So Tyler Soderstrom, good choice as well.
Yeah, a lot of dudes this week. All right, time now for the John Fisher Dork of the Week. Okay, Ken, who do you have?
All right, I'm not going to belabor this. We've talked a lot about this on fair territory, on foul territory, but my collective dorks of the week are the trio from Atlanta, Snitker, Kelenic, and Acuna. As I wrote the other day, they all should have known better. Kelenic should have run hard, Snitker should have benched him, and Acuna, if he had a problem, should have told the manager privately rather than blast it out on X, only to take it down later. So we're not going to go into all the details again, but that was just not the best look. The good news for the Braves is that they're playing a lot better, and they're up to 10-14 now. They look like they're going to stabilize, and once Acuna gets back, they'll be that much better too.
Yeah, one thing I've learned is there's certain teams that you don't count out. And the Atlanta Braves, Ken, the Houston Astros, the Los Angeles Dodgers, those are three of the teams that I never count out. My dork of the week happens to do with the other team in Southern California, and it's not the Padres. It's the Angels, and why on earth they would schedule a 6:29 p.m. game on a travel day. So this club is going to have to play at 6:29, then they have to fly. I believe they're going to Minnesota next, correct? Then they play in Minnesota, a night game, and then they have a day game the next day. Now, with the collective bargaining agreement, 6:29 p.m., Ken, is the latest minute allowed by the CBA, and then a day game is standard. That's what they should have done, what they typically do if they can. The home team gets to decide if they're going to have a day game on a getaway day. I just don't understand why the Angels thought. I mean, I guess it's because of the gate. Obviously, you want to be able to make money. But you got to I would think you'd want to put your players first.
You would think, Alanna, that would be what a major league franchise would do. But the Angels, according to the story by Sam Blum, which was terrific, have consistently done this kind of thing. playing night games on a travel day or a getaway day, I should say. And it just speaks to where they are as a franchise. And we've talked about them being dysfunctional under owner Arte Moreno for quite some time now. And that dysfunction manifests itself in any number of ways. And this is the latest one. And not only do you put your players in a physically compromised state because they get less rest, but it's a morale thing too. It ticks the players off and it makes it a less pleasant place to be. And I'll add one more thing on the great Angels. Grillin Ken, one of the worst pitchers in Major League Baseball last year with the Angels. Suddenly he's with the Mets, one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball this year. I'm not saying it's all because of the Angels screwing up and the Mets doing great things with pitching, which they are doing, but that's a reflection too on where they are.
And some of the reasoning for this, I guess, doing the math, it was going to be against Paul Skeens. It's not. Paul Skeens is actually pitching the next day. So the 6:29 p.m. start will not be opposed with Paul Skeens. It's got to be because obviously they want the gate and there's more attendance in night games, but it's a long season. And talk about ticking off the players. You are absolutely right when it comes to that. Doesn't sound like a priority in the next CBA though, Ken, since most teams avoid this type of practice. So, I mean, seems like the Angels are the only ones doing this. So I would imagine next CBA, this isn't much of a conversation.
Probably not. There are greater things for the players and owners to be fighting about, money being one of them, money being two of them, and the rest of them too. But I will say this as well about the Angels. You want to make more money? You want to get better gates? How about building a better team? That's how you do it.
Yeah. Amen. All right, before we let you go, everybody, it's time to shout out our friends at BetMGM. It's the BetMGM First Bet $1,500 offer when you use the bonus code FOUL. Get this offer when you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app or at BetMGM.com. Sign up, enter that bonus code FOUL, and deposit at least $10 into your new account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. If the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Ken, I know that you have your big game on Saturday for Fox. Where are you headed? And give us a quick thought about this upcoming matchup.
Wrigley Field, which has been the place to be in baseball this week. The Phillies are coming in fresh off getting swept by the Mets in New York, so it's a big series for them. And Saturday's matchup is Jesus Luzardo versus Ben Brown. Luzardo, of course, having a tremendous year so far for the Phillies. Ben Brown is the guy essentially stepping up for Justin Steele in the Cubs rotation. So it's going to be really interesting to see these two teams go at it, to see how long the Cubs can sustain this crazy offense that they've had. And it'll be interesting as well to see whether the Phillies kind of start getting it going, because I imagine that they will pretty soon.
Yeah, that's another team when I talked about teams that I never quite give up on. The Philadelphia Phillies and Rob Thompson and that whole group, another team that you know that they're going to get things going in the right direction. Well, thank you to everybody that has been with us today on Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. And yes, guys, I know that Justin Steele is a Cub. Geez, thanks for watching us here today. Don't forget, Foul Territory is next, coming up with me, AJ, Eric Kratz. Scott Braun is off, but we have a big guest list. Carlos Mendoza of the Mets, Bartolo Colon, former Met, and Tim Kirchin, of course. And then Dodgers Territory returns after Foul Territory with myself and Clint Pacias. Trevor May, host of May Day, is going to join us as well. For Ken Rosenthal, I'm Alanna Rizzo. We'll see you next time.